Hi students, welcome to week 10. I'm going to do a quick review of your assignments that are due in the coming weeks. So this starts your review of your medical translations interpreting. The bloopers we will review in class. I'm going to go over some of the links for the laws for interpreters here in California and nationwide, remind you about your glossaries. It's very important that in your leisure time you review the organizations for interpreters, medical interpreters, especially if you're considering working in that field. And then I'm going to review class exercise 5 and class exercise 4, your homework we're going to do in class. Some deadlines and announcements, and then your quiz. If you have time to review this before you go, you get to class, make sure that you read each and every sentence in this Kaiser Permanente flyer and let me know what do you think it's wrong. It's very important for you to go and review the Health Insurance Portability and Accountability Act and how that relates to disclosure of your confidentiality information, or also known as HIPAA, when it comes to interpreters. I have two links here about the interpreters and HIPAA, and it's really, really important that you review those. Again, if you're considering going into the medical field, and also one of those is going to be in your study guide for quiz 3. But basically, in a nutshell, it just states that a care provider does not need to obtain authorization. So the question here is, must a covered healthcare provider obtain an individual's authorization or a patient's authorization to use or disclose protected health information to an interpreter? And protected health information falls under HIPAA. The answer is no. When a covered healthcare provider uses an interpreter to communicate with an individual, the individual's authorization is not required. So a patient does not need to give their consent or sign their consent. When the provider meets certain conditions, so you need to review what those conditions are. Covered entities may use and disclose protected health information against HIPAA for treatment, payment, and health care operations without individual authorization. Again, with HIPAA and interpreters, a covered healthcare provider might use interpreter services to communicate with patients who speak a language other than English or who are deaf or hard of hearing, and provision of interpreter services usually will be a healthcare operation functions that the covered entity has defined, and then it gives you the law of California code. When using interpreter services, a covered entity may use and disclose protected health information. Again, here we're dealing with HIPAA regarding individual without an individual's authorization as a healthcare operation in accordance with the privacy rules in the following ways. Okay, so here, the interpreter is a member of the covered entity's workforce. So that could be a full-time employee or a contract interpreter working as a 1099 on staff or a volunteer. So pay attention because also volunteers, they fall into this. And remember, we had one of our classmates share with us her experience in the medical field as a volunteer. So that she would definitely fall under this, especially when you're going to health fairs and you are translating, doing site translations, you're covered under HIPAA. When a covered entity engages the services of a person or entity, a third party who is not a workforce member, so these are the translation interpreting agencies that medical offices contract for. Remember, we talked about telephone interpreting, so that's an example. To perform interpreter services on his behalf as a business associate, a covered entity may disclose protected health information as necessary for that person to provide the interpreter services on the covered entity behalf. So once again, it's covered under HIPAA. And here I just give an example of Title 4 of the Civil Rights Act. So federal legislation also says that if you have a contractual relationship with an interpreter services, that the privacy rule it doesn't apply because you fall under the protection of HIPAA when it comes to sharing that information. And here I go and give you specifically for California, we talked about how many family members interpret for hospitals. And I mean, for the small clinics and small medical centers, I guess there's not that, many bilingual staff on staff, but it is a code and we're going to review it in class. And it's per health and safety code, and I give you the number 1259. General acute care hospitals are required to submit to the California Department of Public Health on an an annual basis a copy of their policies and procedures for providing language assistance services. So hospitals are required to provide, if you require an interpreter in your language. So here is more information, and again, there's a great video that I'm going to show in class that was done by the UCLA Health Department on what are the do's and don'ts of using a family member and what are the implications and the risk associated when they interpret incorrectly. Again, here, the California Health Code defines an interpreter, a person fluent in English and in the necessary second language who can accurately speak, read, and readily interpret the necessary second language, or a person who can accurately sign and read sign language. Interpreters should have the ability to translate the names of body parts and describe competently symptoms and injuries in both languages. Interpreters may include members of the medical or professional staff, and there's a link for your reference. It's very important that you review this organization if you're planning into going into the medical field as an interpreter translator, as they do have important information about how to become a member, but also the certifications you need in California to be a medical certified interpreter. And this we'll review in class. This is a very, very long handbook on the certification, the Commission for Healthcare Interpreters, but it gives you, I broke it down to page 9 and 21. It gives you what the requirements are, some sample questions and the fees, and everything you need to know to become certified as a medical interpreter. Here I gave you the links for the National Board of Certification, and again, the pages, and all of this is in Module 10. Your glossaries there's 7 medical glossaries. If anybody knows of any other that we can use, by all means, just post them in the general questions in the module before Module 1 so that you can share with the class. We are going to do class exercise 5, and you might need those, and I will talk to you more about that. Homework 4, this is due November 3rd. This is the LAUSD attendance letter. I also gave you some sample letters so you could see the terminology that the LAUSD, this is the Los Angeles Unified School District, uses for their attendance letters. But I will do part of the letter with your help in class so that you could, if you already got started, that's great. But if so you could get started, and we will review that. Classroom exercise 5, your site translation, I will provide the handouts in class, pages 1 and 3, but those are also, if you want to open the PDFs, those are also in your module 10s. You're going to do on Sunday, the module is due Sunday, November 10, your answers to those questions, and I will give you more information as to how we're going to do that site translation. Again, just a reminder, I do this in every module, to please include your name with your homework assignment, and you do need to upload a Word document so that I can edit your assignment. So if your assignment has not been edited, it's because you did not submit a Word document. Pages, if you're using a Mac computer, please convert to a Word doc. Deadlines, class exercise 5 with site translation, I will go over in class, is due November 10th. Your homework 4, which is the attendance letter from the LA Unified School District, is due November 3rd, Sunday. And medical discussions, it's already open, and your first post is due November 8th, and your last two replies to your classmates are due November 10th. And then just a reminder that the quiz is Monday, October 28th. Your quizzes, again, is 1 hour. Module 10, 11, and 12 have to do with medical interpreting and translations. Module 13, 14, and 15 have to do with the legal translations, and I'll be reviewing what your final is going to consist of in the coming days. So with that, that concludes our quick review of Module 10. So enjoy the week, and I will see you in class.